Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at PolyWorks running a CNC CMM. Today we have a Wenzel CMM that we're going to be measuring this part with. So we're going to be looking at connecting to the machine, creating some features, and then creating a sequence from those features to go ahead and measure the part. So I'm going to put this part down and we're going to go through that. I'm going to start by opening up a new file of PolyWorks Inspector. Okay, and we're going to, first of all, tell PolyWorks what probing device we're connected to today. So I'm just going to connect in to our CNC CMM, and it's going to ask me what tool I have mounted on. So at the moment I have a 2mm probe on, so I'm going to click OK. That will as well then show me my probing device that I've created as well. So we're going to start now then with bringing in our CAD model. So we can drag and drop that into PolyWorks and it will import the CAD in. I can rotate it around then to suit the orientation that I'm actually have my part set on my CMM. We're going to now put in all the features that we are asked to measure and that we're interested in measuring on the CAD model. So if I go to my Create Features tab, I can then pull off and hover my mouse over any feature and I get a preview of what feature is going to be pulled out from the CAD model. I can tell it if it's going to be a datum. So for instance, if I want this top face as datum A, I simply select it and PolyWorks knows that that now is datum plane A. I'm going to just quickly go through the rest of my features that I'm interested in measuring at the moment. Okay, so these circles and that slot. Once we're happy, we can then hit close. So you can see on the left hand side we have our tree view now with all the features that we have picked out from our CAD model. We now want to tell PolyWorks how to measure those features. So I'm just going to go into the measurement tab and tell it we're going to CNC probe. One thing you'll notice is that we can straight away get our path that PolyWorks is going to use to measure, and we can see where the points are that it wants to measure. We can easily say that we want 4 points, for instance, and we can see the difference and where PolyWorks or the CMM is going to drive to. We can tell it that we want to come in further from any edges by 10 mil, and we can drag and drop the measurement points ourselves. And what I'm going to do is change our movement to 10 mil before and 10 mil after. And what that does is it's just creating some clearance for me to come above my part. So I'm going to apply and close that. I'm going to now select all of my features and go to all of their properties, go to their measurement, and tell it they're going to be CNC probed. So submethod is standard, and for the plane, I'm going to use my datum plane A to project these features to, or these circles to. Number of points, so I can easily change that. And again, my graphics will update with my selection. So if I want to come closer or further away from the plane, then I can quickly and easily change that. What I'm actually going to do though is just tactile scan all of these circles. So since I have the functionality to do it today, I'm just going to ask the probe to come in and just run around the inside of those circles so that it'll be quicker and take a lot more points so I can really see my form. And I'm going to change my clearance distance as well. So apply. And now I'm just left with my slot. And if I go to my measurement, CNC probe, and again, use plane feature and datum plane A. Now, might have noticed that circle 8 here, for instance, isn't actually projected onto datum plane A, or it's not on this top face. So I can go back into circle 8, change its measurement, and tell it, okay, you're going to have to probe your own local plane, and that just sets the properties then for circle 8 by itself. What I now want to do, since I have all of my features pulled out to measure, is create a sequence for my CMM to measure them. So if we open up our sequence editor and hit record, then it just records where I'm at the moment. So it has my coordinate system, my device position, and my alignment all set. It also brings in the default movements, approach speed, so any of your CNC parameters, and then what tool we have on at the moment and what orientation that tool is in. So at the moment we're straight down, so we're at A0, B0. Now what I'm going to do is give it a pre-alignment or a manual alignment, and we're going to just do a quick surface point alignment. You can obviously do a feature-based alignment or even just a one-point alignment, but for now we're just going to do a surface point. And I'll show you the advantage of doing that. So we're going to pick 3 points on my top face, 2 on the front, and 1 on the side. And you'll notice down the bottom here, PolyWorks has automatically seen that, okay, it can align my first 3 points by the Y direction, next 2 by the Z, and then the final one by the X. So it's now looking for me to come in and manually take these points. So if I drive my CMM down to my part, I can take the first point. Okay, and you can see already PolyWorks has aligned where the manual point was taken to where it should be on the CAD. Take my second point. Okay, and take my third point. And again, because you're just using this as an orientation, for Y we don't have to be overly accurate about our position. So we just want to get points on our face. That we have been asked to measure. Okay, and my final point, and at any stage you can rotate the screen around in PolyWorks. Okay. So, now that we've measured our points, we can see that they were all within their 10 mil tolerance zone. And it's also added that step to the end of my sequence, and that was because we were in the record mode. So I'm going to close out of my alignment, and I'm going to stop my recording, because now what I'm going to do is we're going to add in my features that we've selected and filled in their details. We want to get PolyWorks to create a sequence and movements to get around and measure all of these features. So I'm simply going to select them. Okay, going to go to the top of my sequence editor and edit sequence and measurement path interactively. Okay, once I do that, I get into that tool, and first button along there is add the selected objects to the end of my sequence. So if I click that, any of my features that I had selected will be put into my sequence. There is as well collision detection, so it has automatically, to start with, driven away from the part to then come back down and measure the features. It will put them into its optimized path. So as you can see, it's finished its planar point over here. Then it comes to measure the circle and then goes about working around the part. So that now is just left for us to execute. So if we run those steps, PolyWorks now moves the machine and goes about measuring those features. So it's tactile scanning inside of the holes as we requested. And we can see visually on screen what it's doing in real time also. Tactile scanning the holes means it can work around a lot quicker than coming in and measuring multiple points. Means that it just in one hit she can capture a lot more information. And we can keep an eye on its progress by keeping an eye on the sequence editor and seeing how many steps are left to go. So we can see that we have circle 1 and circle 2 left to go as well. So even though that I had created my features on the left hand side in the tree in a certain order, PolyWorks hasn't said that that was the optimal order to measure those features in. So that is our sequence created, and now that we have CNC CMM'd our features, it is more than likely a little bit more accurate. So we can then put ourselves back into record mode and select the features that we want to use for an alignment and create an alignment from those features. And again, PolyWorks has put that step onto the bottom of our sequence. That concludes today's webinar. If you have any questions, you can ask us in the chat. And you can also follow us on social media or on our website to find out more about our upcoming webinars and our tips and tricks that we release every so often. We will be continuing on with this in our next webinar, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thank you.